Midnight glass shatters and a scream slices the silence. Welcome to the story. Grab a cup of tea, take a seat, and sink into Miss Marple and the death in the Midnight Conservatory. If the chills already crawl up your spine, hit subscribe. Now your support means the world to us. Chapter 1. The Glass That Lied. Moonlight spills through the iron ribs of the conservatory, turning every leaf silver and sharp. St. Mary Mead sleeps beyond the hedge, but inside the glass dome, the air hangs thick with orchid scent and something metallic. Miss Jane Marple steps over the threshold at 11:58, her sensible shoes crunching on gravel. She carries no lantern, only a small torch that paints circles of gold on the tiled floor. Lady Clarissa Vale invited the village knitting circle for a late tour of her prize plants, but the other guests linger in the drawing room sipping sherry. Miss Marple prefers solitude among green things. She pauses beside a towering bird of paradise, its orange petals like flames frozen mid-dance. A low hum drifts from the fountain at the centre, water trickling over marble lips. Then the lights flicker once, twice, and die. Darkness swallows the dome. A single pane explodes overhead, showering shards that glitter like deadly snow. The scream comes sharp, terrified, unmistakably human. Miss Marple flicks her torch upward. The beam catches a figure sprawled across the iron catwalk 30 feet above. Arms flung wide, blood threading down a steel rail. Footsteps thunder behind her. Sir Henry Vale bursts through the door, his face chalk white beneath the hunting pink he wore to dinner. Behind him cluster the guests, Mrs. Bantry wide-eyed, young Dr. Lloyd clutching a brandy glass that trembles in his hand, and Clarissa herself wrapped in emerald silk, her lips parted in a silent O. The beam of Miss Marple's torch holds steady on the body. It is Mr. Quentin, the landscape architect, who arrived only yesterday to redesign the rosebeds. His eyes stare sightless at the glass roof. Sir Henry starts up the spiral stairs 2 at a time. Clarissa clutches the doorframe, her knuckles bone white. Miss Marple moves beneath the catwalk, studying the floor. A single orchid petal lies crushed near the fountain, its cream throat stained crimson. She kneels, careful not to disturb the gravel, and lifts the petal between thumb and forefinger. The cut is clean, almost surgical. Footprints lead away from the spot, small neat impressions pressed deep at the heel. Someone ran up on the catwalk. Sir Henry kneels beside the body. He looks down, his voice hoarse. Hes dead, neck broken. Miss Marple nods once. She has seen death before in cottage bedrooms and vicarage gardens, but never suspended in a cage of glass and moonlight. Dr. Lloyd pushes past the others, his medical bag banging against his hip. He climbs the stairs slower, his breath coming in puffs. Miss Marple turns her attention to the broken pane. Jagged edges point inward like teeth. A ladder leans against the far wall, its rungs dusted with potting soil. Someone climbed high tonight. Clarissa finds her voice thin and brittle. The lights went out for only a moment. I heard glass break, then nothing until the scream. Mrs. Bantry clutches her pearls. We were all together in the drawing room. Every one of us. Miss Marple files the words away. Alibis offered too swiftly often hide cracks. Dr. Lloyd reaches the body. He presses fingers to the neck, then shakes his head. Instantaneous, he mutters. Fall from that height. He scans the catwalk rail. No sign of struggle. The rail is intact. No dents, no blood, except where the head struck. He looks down at Miss Marple. Did you see anyone up here? She shakes her head. Only the orchid petal and the footprints. Sir Henry descends, his boots clanging on metal. He stares at the broken pane. Must have been an accident. Quentin was pruning late, insisted the moon was bright enough. Clarissa wrings her hands. He wanted to trim the orchids before the frost. Said they drooped. Miss Marple notes the tremor in the lady's voice, the way her eyes dart to the shadowed corners, where vines coil like sleeping serpents. The conservatory door creaks again. Constable Palk fills the frame, his helmet tucked under one arm. Sir Henry sent a boy on a bicycle, he explains. I came as quick as I could. His gaze travels upward to the body, then sweeps the circle of faces. No one speaks. The fountain gurgles, filling the silence. Miss Marple steps forward. Constable, perhaps you might fetch a sheet. We cannot leave him like that. Pork nods and disappears. While they wait, Miss Marple circles the fountain. The water is dark, stained deeper in one spot. She dips a finger. Warm, fresh. She looks up at the catwalk. Blood drips steadily from Quentin's hair, forming a small pool on the iron grate. Yet the stain below is larger spread in a fan shape. 2 sources. She files the detail away. Clarissa sinks onto a stone bench, her silk gown pooling like spilled ink. He was alive an hour ago, laughing about the new hybrid tea rose. Her voice cracks. Who could want to hurt him? Sir Henry paces his shadow, leaping across the glass walls. No one. A tragic fall, that's all. Miss Marple watches the baronet. His hands clench and unclench at his sides. Dr. Lloyd climbs down. I need to telephone the coroner. The nearest phone is in the house. He hesitates, looking at Miss Marple. Will you stay with the body? She nods. Of course. The others file out, leaving her alone with the dead man and the dripping fountain. Moonlight shifts as clouds pass, turning the conservatory into a shifting aquarium of silver and black. Miss Marple approaches the ladder. The top rung bears a fresh scratch bright against the rust. She shines her torch along the wall. A thin wire glints almost invisible, stretched taut between 2 hooks at knee height. She follows its path. It leads to a pulley hidden among the rafters, then down to a small crank bolted beneath the catwalk. A trap. Simple, deadly. Someone planned this murder with the patience of a gardener setting a snare for rabbits. She hears voices returning. Quickly, she loosens the wire, coiling it into her pocket. Evidence must wait for the proper eyes. Constable Palk enters with a sheet, followed by Sir Henry and Dr. Lloyd. They cover the body. Miss Marple steps back, her mind racing. Quentin arrived yesterday. He argued with Sir Henry at dinner over payment for the rose beds. Clarissa praised his designs too warmly, her eyes lingering. Mrs. Bantry whispered that the landscaper had an eye for more than flowers. Motives bloom like night jasmine, sweet and poisonous. The constable clears his throat. Ill needs statements from everyone. Miss Marple smiles gently. Of course. But first, may I suggest we examine the roof? The broken pane interests me. Polk frowns, but Sir Henry nods curtly. They climb the spiral stairs single file. On the catwalk, the body lies shrouded. Miss Marple kneels by the rail. The break in the glass is directly above. She looks up. The pane is intact on the outer side, only the inner shards fell. Someone struck from inside. Dr. Lloyd peers over the edge. Wind could have loosened it. Miss Marple shakes her head. No wind tonight. The air is still as a tomb. She points to the frame. See the hammer marks? Fresh. Someone pried the pane loose, then struck it from below to send glass raining down. A distraction. While we looked up, the murderer pushed. Sir Henry pales. But we were all in the drawing room. Miss Marple meets his gaze. Were we? She thinks of the footprints, small, neat, running toward the side door that opens onto the kitchen garden. Someone slipped away and returned within minutes. They descend. Constable Palk begins his questions. Miss Marple listens, her knitting needles clicking softly in her mind, though her hands remain still. Clarissa claims she never left the drawing room. Sir Henry says the same. Mrs. Bantry agrees. Dr. Lloyd nods. Yet the side door stands ajar, now a slice of night visible beyond. Someone lies. Outside, dawn bleeds pale across the sky. Dew beads on the glass. Miss Marple steps into the garden. The footprints continue here, pressed into the soft earth beside a bed of night-blooming cereus. They stop at a tool shed. The door hangs open. Inside, she finds a hammer, its head flecked with paint, that matches the conservatory frame. And on the floor, a single white orchid petal crushed, as if someone paused to pluck it in haste. She pockets the petal. 10 guests in the house last night. 10 possible killers. The conservatory holds its secrets close. But Miss Marple has unravelled tighter knots with less thread. She closes the shed door. Somewhere a clock strikes 6. The hunt begins. Back inside, the others gather in the morning room tea, steaming in porcelain cups. Miss Marple accepts a cup, her eyes bright. Lovely blend, she murmurs. Ceylon? Clarissa nods distracted. Miss Marple sips. The first lie is always the sweetest. She sets the cup down. Now then, who among us wears a size 5 shoe? The room falls silent. Outside, the conservatory glitters in morning light, beautiful, deadly, waiting for the next act. Chapter 2. Footprints in the dew sunlight strikes the conservatory like a searchlight, turning every droplet into a tiny prism. Miss Marple stands at the morning room window, her cup balanced on the saucer untouched. The others shift in their chairs the way guilty cats pretend innocence when the cream jug tips. Constable Polk flips open his notebook, his pencil stub poised. Size 5, she repeats aloud. A lady's foot. Delicate. The words hang in the air heavier than the toast rack. Clarissa laughs too high, too quick. My shoes are 6, darling. Italian leather. She lifts one foot, the emerald slipper catching the light. Sir Henry clears his throat. Men's boots here. 10 at least. Mrs. Bantry flushes pink. 7 wide. Bunions, you know. Dr. Lloyd shrugs. 9. Army issue. Miss Marple nods as if cataloguing birds at a feeder. She sets her cup down with a soft click. The constable scratches his head. Prints outside lead to the shed. Hammer inside. Paint matches the frame. Someone climbed the catwalk, set the trap, then ran. Miss Marple adds quietly, and returned to the drawing room before the scream. Polk looks at her sharp. You think one of us? She smiles the way a cat smiles at a canary. I think the truth walks on small feet. Breakfast arrives, poached eggs coddled in silver dishes, kippers gleaming like wet coins. No one eats. Sir Henry pushes back his chair. I must telephone the coroner myself. Quentin had family in London. He strides out, his boots echoing down the hall. Clarissa watches him go, her fingers twisting the silk at her throat. Miss Marple notes the gesture. Fear or calculation? Mrs. Bantry leans close. Jane dear, did you sleep at all? Miss Marple pats her hand. Sleep is for the innocent dolly. She rises. Constable, may I borrow your tape measure? Polk hands it over, puzzled. She leads him outside, the gravel crunching under sensible heels. The footprints begin again at the conservatory side door. She stretches the tape, 5 inches heel to toe. Depth suggests weight near 8 stone. A woman or a slight man. They follow the trail across the lawn, dew soaking their cuffs. The prints veer toward the rosebeds, then double back to the shed. Clever, Miss Marple murmurs. A loop to confuse. Inside the shed, she points to scuff marks on the dusty floor. Someone stood here long enough to pry the pane. See the deeper impression? Polk nods slowly. And the hammer was wiped on that rag. Oil stains, but no blood. Back in the house, the telephone rings shrill from the study. Sir Henry's voice rises, muffled but urgent. Miss Marple pauses on the threshold. He speaks of insurance policies and unpaid bills. Quentin threatened to sue over the rose design. Words like breach and damages float through the door. She steps away before he sees her. Clarissa meets them in the hall, her face pale beneath powder. The maids found this in the laundry basket. She holds out a white cotton glove, the right hand only. A dark smudge mars the cuff. Miss Marple takes it, orchid sap sticky and sweet. Size small. She turns the glove inside out. A single strand of blonde hair clings to the lining. Clarissa's hair is raven black. Mrs. Bantry's silver. The glove belongs to neither. Dr. Lloyd appears wiping his hands on a towel. Coroner will arrive by noon. He hesitates. Quentin carried a letter in his pocket. Unopened. Addressed to Sir Henry. Miss Marple raises an eyebrow. May I? Lloyd hands it over. The envelope is heavy cream stock sealed with green wax. The crest is a coiled serpent. She tucks it into her cardigan pocket. Evidence, she says softly, must breathe before it speaks. Upstairs, the guest rooms wait, doors ajar like curious mouths. Miss Marple climbs the main staircase, her hand light on the banister. Quentin's room is at the end, overlooking the conservatory. The bed is unmade sheets twisted as if he rose in haste. A suitcase stands open, clothes folded with military precision. On the desk lies a leather notebook. She flips it open. Sketches of roses hybrids labelled with Latin names. One page is torn out, the ragged edge fresh. She searches the wastebasket. Nothing. Under the blotter, she finds a telegram. Arrived Tuesday. Stop payment. Do stop, Quentin. Sent yesterday. She pockets it. Down the hall, Clarissa's door stands closed. Miss Marple knocks once, no answer. She turns the handle. The room smells of tuberose and talc. On the dressing table, a row of bottles glints. One is missing its mate, an empty space beside the matching glove. A floorboard creaks behind her. She turns. Young Evelyn Pierce, the housemaid, hovers in the doorway, her apron clutched in nervous fingers. "Beg pardon, miss, I was told to tidy." Miss Marple smiles. "Of course, child. Tell me, did Mr. Quentin receive visitors last night?" Evelyn shakes her head. "Only Lady Clarissa brought him cocoa at 10. Said he worked late." Miss Marple notes the tremor in the girl's voice. "And you saw nothing else?" Evelyn glances down the corridor. Footsteps, she whispers. After lights out, soft like a woman's but quick, Miss Marple thanks her and descends. In the conservatory, the body is gone, carried away on a stretcher. The fountain still trickles, mocking the silence. She kneels where the orchid petal fell. The gravel bears a faint outline, a rectangle, perhaps a notebook pressed into the stones while someone waited. She brushes the stones clean. Sir Henry meets her at the door, his face grim. "Police inspector from Much Benham is coming. Says we must all stay put." Miss Marple nods. Wise. Murder travels poorly on empty stomachs. She suggests lunch. The dining room fills reluctantly. Cold ham salad sandwiches cut into precise triangles. Conversation dies with the first bite. Halfway through the meal, the doorbell rings. Inspector Slack strides in his mustache, bristling like an angry hedgehog. He surveys the table. "Right then, no one leaves. Statements start now." He points at Sir Henry. "You first." The baronet rises his chair, scraping loud in the hush. Miss Marple finishes her sandwich. She excuses herself to the powder room. In the hall, she slips into the study. The telephone receiver lies off the hook. She lifts it gently. A woman's voice mid-sentence. "Tell Henry the policy lapses at midnight." She hangs up quickly. Miss Marple replaces the receiver. Insurance again. Curious. Back in the dining room, Inspector Slack has arranged chairs in a circle like a deadly game of musical statues. He begins with Clarissa. "Where were you at 11:58? Clarissa lifts her chin. "Drawing room. Port and gossip." Mrs. Bantry nods vigorously. Dr. Lloyd agrees. Sir Henry returned from the study moments before the scream. Slack scribbles. Miss Marple watches faces. Someone blinks too often. Someone else stares at the pattern in the rug, as if answers hide between roses. Her turn comes. She folds her hands in her lap. I walked to the conservatory alone. Heard glass break. Saw the body fall. Slack leans forward. "Why alone?" She smiles. "Old ladies prefer plants to Port Inspector." They don't argue back. A ripple of nervous laughter escapes Mrs. Bantry. Slack dismisses them one by one. In the hallway, Miss Marple catches Evelyn. "The cocoa you mentioned. Did Lady Clarissa carry the tray herself?" Evelyn nods. "Silver pot, 2 cups. Said Mr. Quentin liked it sweet." Miss Marple thanks her. 2 cups, yet only one man drank. Afternoon sun slants through the conservatory, turning the air gold. Miss Marple returns alone. The ladder still leans against the wall. She climbs slowly, testing each rung. At the top, she examines the pulley. The wire she removed fits perfectly. A simple counterweight. Pull the crank and the trap springs. She looks down. The fountain glitters 30 feet below. A perfect stage. On the catwalk, she finds what she missed earlier, a smear of green paint on the rail fresh beside the blood. She scrapes it with her nail, matches the shed hammer. The killer climbed twice, once to set the trap, once to push. She descends. At the bottom, she notices a loose tile. She pries it up. Beneath lies a small key brass bright. She pockets it. Evening gathers purple beyond the glass. The house settles into uneasy quiet. Inspector Slack interviews servants in the kitchen, his voice booming. Miss Marple slips upstairs to Quentin's room. The key fits the desk drawer. Inside, she finds the missing notebook page. A letter in Quentin's handwriting. "Henry, you owe me more than money. Ask your wife about the greenhouse at midnight. It is signed Q and dated yesterday." She folds the page small. Downstairs dinner is announced. Roast chicken smells drift through the hall, but appetites remain buried with the landscaper. At table, Inspector Slack sits at the head, his plate piled high. He chews thoughtfully. Accident, he announces, is off the table. Murder. Someone in this room. Gasps circle like startled birds. Miss Marple butters a roll. "The glove," she says mildly. "Who lost it?" Clarissa pales. Mrs. Bantry flushes. Dr. Lloyd studies his wine. Sir Henry grips his fork until knuckles whiten. Slack looks up interested. Glove. Miss Marple produces it from her pocket. Found in the laundry. Orchid sap, blonde hair, size small. Silence drops heavy as damask. Clarissa recovers first. Perhaps the maids. Slack snorts. Maids don't wear silk-lined gloves. He turns to Miss Marple. Anything else? She smiles. Only that someone here drinks cocoa with 2 cups but alone. And someone walks on size 5 lies. Outside, thunder rumbles distant. Rain begins to patter on the glass roof, soft as guilty secrets. The conservatory darkens leaf by leaf. Miss Marple sips her soup. The net tightens. One more night, and the killer will step into the light or into the fountain. Either closes the trap. Chapter 3. The serpent seal rain lashes the conservatory roof, turning every pane into a drum. Miss Marple sits alone in the library, firelight flickering across the letter she found. The serpent seal stares up green wax cracked like a warning. She slides a paper knife beneath the flap. Inside a single sheet, heavy stock. The handwriting is bold slanted. Payment in full by midnight or the roses die with me. No signature, only the serpent pressed deep. Footsteps cross the rug, soft, deliberate. Inspector Slack fills the doorway, rain dripping from his Mac. Thought I'd find you here. He drops into the opposite chair. That envelope addressed to Sir Henry. Mind if I see? Miss Marple hands it over. Slack reads once, then again, his mustache twitching. Blackmail plain as day. He pockets the letter. Quentin was shaking the tree hard. Upstairs, doors slam. Voices rise. Clarissa shrieks something about privacy. Slack stands. Better see what the fuss is. Miss Marple follows. In the upper hall, Sir Henry blocks Clarissa's bedroom door, his face thunder dark. You went to him last night, he bellows. Cocoa indeed. Clarissa pushes past tears bright. He was lonely, that's all. Slack shoulders between them. Enough. Into the sitting room, all of you. The guests assemble like mismatched chess pieces. Dr. Lloyd pours brandy with a shaking hand. Mrs. Bantry clutches a lace handkerchief. Sir Henry paces. Clarissa sinks into a chintz chair, her silk gown stained with rain from the open window. Slack plants himself before the hearth. Right. Quentin had dirt on someone, enough to demand cash by midnight. Who paid? Silence. Then Sir Henry speaks low. I offered 500 this morning. He refused. Said it wasn't enough for what he knew. Clarissa gasps. You never told me. Henry turns on her. Because you were too busy playing Lady Bountiful with Cocoa. Miss Marple watches the firelight dance on faces. Dr. Lloyd sets the brandy decanter down hard. Quentin sketched more than roses. He showed me a plan last week, underground tunnels beneath the rose beds. Smugglers' paths from the old house. Sir Henry laughs bitter. Fairy tales. Lloyd shakes his head. Stone arches real as this glass. Quentin wanted 10,000 to keep quiet. Said the estate would lose its historic grant if the tunnels came out. Mrs. Bantry leans forward. But the grant pays the roof repairs. Without it, the house crumbles. Clarissa buries her face in her hands. Henry sold the South Field last month to cover debts. If the grant vanishes, we lose everything. Slack whistles soft. Motive enough for murder. Thunder rolls overhead. The lights flicker. In the darkness, a door creaks somewhere below. Slack grabs a torch from the mantel. Stay put. Miss Marple rises. Ill come. They descend the main stairs, the beam-cutting tunnels through black. The conservatory door stands open, rain blowing in on hot wind. Inside the fountain sprays wild, the pump jammed by a sodden coat. Slack swears. Someone went out this way. Miss Marple points to wet prints on the tiles, size 5 again, leading toward the orchid bench. She kneels. A brass button lies in the water serpent crest. She pockets it. Slack follows the prints. They stop at the glass wall where a panel swings loose a secret door hidden behind vines. Beyond lies the kitchen garden mud churned to soup. They step outside. Lightning forks illuminating the rosebeds. A figure darts between the bushes, cloaked dark hair flying. Slack shouts. Police halt. The figure slips through a gap in the yew hedge. By the time they reach it, only broken branches sway. Slack curses. Gone. Miss Marple studies the mud. Prints deeper here, carrying weight. Something heavy. Back inside, they bar the panel. Slack radios for men to search the grounds. Upstairs, the sitting room is empty. Chairs overturned, brandy splashed across the rug. Miss Marple finds a scrap of paper beneath the table. A torn corner matches Quentin's notebook. Numbers scrawled 315. She pockets it. In the hall, Evelyn cowers beside the grandfather clock. They took Lady Clarissa, she whispers. Sir Henry and the doctor said she needed air down the back stairs. Miss Marple grips the girl's arm. Which way? Evelyn points to the servants' corridor. Miss Marple runs slack, pounding behind. The back stairs spiral into darkness. At the bottom, a door bangs open onto the old cellars. Damp stone smells rise. Their torch catches movement ahead, Sir Henry dragging Clarissa, her wrists bound with his tie. Dr. Lloyd follows, carrying a lantern and a spade. Slack roars. Drop it. Henry spins wild-eyed. She killed him. She paid Quentin to keep quiet about the tunnels, then pushed him when he asked for more. Clarissa struggles. Liar. You forged the grant papers. You needed him gone. Lloyd raises the spade. Enough secrets. The tunnels hold something worse than history. He swings the lantern light glinting on metal. Miss Marple steps forward, calm. The button in the fountain, Dr. Lloyd. Serpent crest. From your smoking jacket, Lloyd freezes. Slack moves fast, cuffing Henry, then Lloyd. Clarissa sags against the wall, sobbing. Upstairs, the search team arrives, boots shaking the house. They find the tunnel's entrance beneath the wine cellar, a brick arch sealed with fresh mortar. Behind it, crates stamped with the serpent seal. Slack pries one open. Gold coins glint Napoleonic. Smuggler's hoard hidden since 1812. Lloyd confesses in the library, voice flat. Quentin traced the crest to Clarissa's family. Threatened to expose the hoard unless they paid. Henry planned to sell it quietly. Clarissa wanted it buried forever. Miss Marple pours tea, though the pot is cold. Motive, greed and shame. The push was Clarissa's idea, but Henry set the wire. Lloyd provided the distraction with the lights. A perfect triangle. Slack snaps cuffs on the last wrist. Case closed by dawn. Rain stops as suddenly as it began. Moonlight spills clean across the conservatory floor, washing blood and secrets into silver. Miss Marple stands among the orchids. One white bloom opens perfect, untouched. She touches a petal. Some gardens grow truth if you wait long enough. Chapter 4. The second bloom. Dawn creeps pale through the conservatory glass and finds Miss Marple kneeling beside the night-blooming cereus. The flower has closed again, its white petals folded tight as a fist. She lifts a fallen stamen between finger and thumb. A faint green residue clings to the tip. Chlorophyll mixed with something sharper. She sniffs once. Bitter almonds. Behind her, Constable Polk clears his throat. Inspector Slack wants everyone in the morning room. More questions. Miss Marple rises, brushing soil from her skirt. Of course, she pockets the stamen. The house stirs like a patient waking from ether. Maids whisper in corners. The smell of bacon drifts from the kitchen, but no one eats. In the morning room, Slack stands before the marble mantel, a fresh notebook open. Sir Henry, Clarissa and Dr. Lloyd sit in a row, wrists free now but faces grey. Slack taps his pencil. The hoard explains greed but not the push. Who struck the pain? Who pulled the wire? Henry starts to speak. Clarissa cuts him off, voice thin. I never touched the catwalk. Lloyd nods. Nor I. Miss Marple takes the chair nearest the window. The serious residue interests me. Cyanide trace. Someone coated the stamen last night. Slack frowns. Poison now? She nods. A backup plan. If the fall failed, the victim would touch the bloom, then his mouth. Death in minutes. Slack whistles. Clever. And the glove? Blonde hair. None of you match. Mrs. Bantry enters then. Her cheeks flushed from the garden. She carries a small pot. This was dug up beside the shed. Label reads Sirius Hybrid Q. Quentin's own cross. She sets it on the table. The soil is fresh turned. Roots wrapped in newspaper dated yesterday. Miss Marple lifts the cutting. A single bud swells pale and deadly. Slack turns to the prisoners. Who tended the orchids? Clarissa shrugs. Quentin insisted on sole care. Said the hybrids were delicate. Henry adds. He locked the bench each night. Key on a ribbon round his neck. Slack leans forward. Key we found in the fountain. Brass. Matches the padlock on the orchid cage. Miss Marple stands. May I see the body again? Slack hesitates, then nods. They walk to the stables where the coroner's wagon waits. Quentin lies on a trestle table sheet pulled to the chin. Miss Marple lifts the ribbon. The key is gone. She checks his pockets. Empty. Someone took it after death. Back in the house, she asks for the servants. They line up in the hall, eyes wide. Evelyn steps forward. I saw Mr. Quentin lock the cage at 10. Then Lady Clarissa brought cocoa. He drank one cup, left the other. Miss Marple nods. And the key? Evelyn bites her lip. He wore it always, even in bed. Upstairs in Quentin's room, Miss Marple opens the wardrobe. A dressing gown hangs inside, ribbon intact, but key missing. She searches the lining. A seam gives. Inside a folded paper. A second letter. To the police. If I die, check the serious. Poison for a thief. Signed Q. She pockets it. Downstairs, Slack gathers the household in the conservatory. The orchid cage stands open, padlock snapped. Inside, every hybrid Sirius is gone, pots smashed, soil scattered. Only the broken label remains. Slack swears. Evidence destroyed. Miss Marple kneels. Not all. She lifts a shard of pottery. Green residue inside. Enough for the lab. Sir Henry laughs, sudden and harsh. You think we poisoned flowers? Clarissa joins him, voice brittle. Absurd. Lloyd stays silent, eyes on the fountain. Miss Marple watches the water. It runs clear now, but a faint almond scent lingers. She dips a finger. Warm still. The pump was tampered again. She follows the pipe behind the ferns. A small valve is turned full open. Beside it, a tin of rat poison, half empty. Label matches the residue. She calls Slack. He bags it. Footprints here, size 5 again, but deeper. Someone carried the pots out. They trace the prints to the secret panel. Beyond in the kitchen garden, a pile of smashed plants steams in the cold air. Roots exposed, buds crushed. Miss Marple lifts one intact leaf. A drop of clear liquid beads at the cut. She touches it to her tongue. Bitter instant. Cyanide. Slack radios for the lab van. While they wait, Miss Marple returns to the conservatory alone. She studies the catwalk. A new mark catches her eye. A scratch on the rail, fresh wood bright. She climbs. At the top, a thin thread clings to a nail, blonde. She coils it carefully. Downstairs, the lab men arrive, white coats, crisp. They take samples from the fountain, the pots, the stamen. One photographs the scratch. Miss Marple hands over the thread and the second letter. Slack reads aloud. Check the Sirius. He knew. Evening falls, early clouds thick. The house lights flicker, then steady. Dinner is silent soup cooling in bowls. Slack stations a man at every door. No one leaves. Miss Marple excuses herself. In the library, she spreads her finds on the desk. The thread, the stamen, the letter, the button. Pieces of a poisonous puzzle. A knock. Evelyn enters carrying a tray. Cocoa, miss. Miss Marple smiles. 1 cup, child. The girl sets it down, hesitates. The ribbon, she whispers. I found it in the laundry. Cut clean. She produces a length of blue satin. Miss Marple takes it. Scissors, not teeth. Someone planned ahead. Midnight nears. The conservatory glows under a single lamp. Miss Marple sits among the empty benches. The fountain trickles. Footsteps approach, soft, size 5. A figure slips through the side door cloak, dark hood up. It moves to the fountain, kneels. Hands dip into the water. Miss Marple rises. Looking for this? She holds up the brass key. The figure spins. Blonde hair tumbles free. Not Clarissa. Not Mrs. Bantry. Young Miss Elaine Pierce, the under-housemaid sister to Evelyn. Her face is pale, eyes wild. Elaine lunges for the key. Miss Marple steps aside. The girl stumbles. Slack appears from the shadows, cuffs ready. Elaine fights tears streaming. He promised marriage, then laughed. Said I was only the garden girl. She sobs. The poison was for him. The fall a mistake. Slack hauls her up. You coated the flowers? Elaine nods. Every night. He touched them always. The push was panic. I wore Clarissa's glove. Cut the ribbon while he slept. Miss Marple hands Slack the thread. From your own head, child. Elaine crumples. In the morning room, the others wait. Elaine confesses fully. Quentin seduced her promised escape. When he mocked her, she planned slow death. The blackmail was cover. She overheard the tunnels sold the secret to Quentin for a ring. When he threatened to expose her too, she acted. Slack closes his notebook. 4 killers, 1 crime. Henry for greed, Clarissa for shame, Lloyd for silence, Elaine for heartbreak. The serious was her weapon, the fall her panic. Miss Marple pours cold tea. Love and money root deep. Both bloom deadly in the dark. Outside the conservatory stands empty glass, clean soil swept. 1 white orchid survives, replanted in a plain clay pot. Miss Marple waters it. Some flowers outlive their gardeners. She watches the bud. It will open tonight, pure untouched. Truth always does. Chapter 5. The Ribbon. Unravelled. Moonlight returns clear and cold, washing the conservatory in frost. Miss Marple stands at the fountain, the clay pot with the lone orchid balanced on the marble rim. The bud has swelled fat and ivory, ready to split. She lifts the brass key, turns it over. A tiny notch mars the stem, filed fresh. Someone altered it after death. Footsteps echo on the gravel. Inspector Slack enters alone, his coat unbuttoned. Lab confirmed cyanide in the fountain and on every shard. Enough to kill a regiment. He eyes the orchid. That one's safe? Miss Marple nods. Rooted in clean soil. She sets the pot inside the empty cage padlock, clicking shut. Evidence and survivor. Slack rubs his neck. Elaine swears she acted alone on the poison. Says the others only argued. Henry still claims the wire was his idea, but the push was panic. Clarissa insists she never climbed. Lloyd keeps silent. Miss Marple studies the key. Then we test the lock. They walk to the orchid bench. The padlock hangs open, chain loose. She inserts the key. It slides halfway, then stops. The notch catches. She works it gently. A soft click. The lock springs wide, but the key snaps at the notch. She holds up the broken stem. Filed to break on the final turn. Someone meant it to jam. Slack swears under his breath. A second trap. If Quentin opened the cage last night, the key would snap inside. Lock frozen. He could not tend the poisoned blooms. Miss Marple nods. And the killer could enter freely after death to remove evidence. She pockets the broken pieces. Elaine told half the truth. Upstairs the cells fill. Elaine in one room. Henry, Clarissa, Lloyd and others. Slack stations constables at each door. Miss Marple requests the ribbon again. Evelyn brings it blue satin frayed at one end. She whispers, I found scissors in Miss Elaine's apron. Silver small. Miss Marple thanks her. The girl flees, eyes down. In the library, Miss Marple lays the ribbon beside the broken key. The fray matches the cut on Quentin's dressing gown. She threads the ribbon through the key stem. It knots tight. Agahochi. She tests the tension. Strong enough. She unties it. Elaine planned more than poison. Dawn paints the glass rose. Breakfast is tea and silence. Slack gathers the household in the conservatory. The cage stands locked, the orchid glowing inside. He holds up the broken key. Who filed this? Henry shakes his head. Clarissa pales. Lloyd stares at the floor. Elaine enters between 2 constables' wrists cuffed. She looks at the key and laughs broken. Not me. I only cut the ribbon. Miss Marple steps forward. Then who needed the lock jammed? Someone who knew Quentin lock the cage each night. Someone who watched him drink cocoa and leave 1 cup. She turns to Clarissa. You brought the tray. 2 cups. He drank 1. You drank none. Clarissa lifts her chin. I dislike cocoa. Miss Marple produces the second letter from her pocket. To the police. Check the serious. Quentin wrote it yesterday. He suspected poison. Planned to expose the maker tonight. She looks at Elaine. You overheard. Panicked. Cut the ribbon to steal the key. But the key was already filed. Slack frowns. By whom? Miss Marple walks to the fountain. The water runs clear now. She lifts the clay pot. Beneath it a small tin. Rat poison again, but the label peeled half away. Beneath the glue a second label, prescription. Dr. Lloyd's name, digitalis, heart medicine. She holds it up. Bitter almonds mask many tastes. Lloyd lunges. Constables grab him. He fights wild. She was dying anyway. Clarissa knew. The grant, the hoard, everything lost. I sped it along. Slack cuffs him tighter. Poisoned the cocoa? Lloyd nods. 1 cup for Quentin. One for her if he refused to leave. Elaine saw, threatened to tell. I filed the key so she could not open the cage and remove her plants. Clarissa rises, voice steady. I drank nothing. Lloyd laughs. You would have. When the money ran out, Miss Marple watches Clarissa. Her hand trembles on the chair back. She looks at Henry. You knew? Henry turns away. Lloyd planned it all. I only agreed to the wire. Elaine speaks soft. I loved him. He laughed. I poisoned the blooms for revenge. Lloyd used my plants for murder. She meets Miss Marple's eyes. The ribbon was to strangle him if poison failed. I am guilty, but not alone. Slack closes the cage. 4 confessions, 1 key. He bags the tin, the key, the ribbon. The orchid opens, then petals unfurling slow and pure. Miss Marple touches one. No poison here, only truth. She locks the cage again. Sunflowers witness everything. Outside, the coroner's van returns. Bodies and evidence load in silence. The conservatory stands empty, glass, bright soil bare. Miss Marple carries the clay pot to the morning room window. Sunlight strikes the bloom full. It glows like a small moon. She sets it down. A garden always remembers. Chapter 6. The crack in the marble sun climbs high and bakes the conservatory into a hothouse. Miss Marple sits on the fountain rim, the clay pot beside her. The orchid has closed again, petals tight as a secret. She runs a finger along the marble lip. A hairline crack zigzags from the center outward, fresh pale against the grey. She presses. The stone shifts a fraction. Slack enters, wiping sweat from his brow. Fan's gone. All 4 in cells. He eyes the crack. Fountain again. Miss Marple nods. The pump was forced open twice. Once to hide the coat, once to weight the marble. She lifts the cracked slab. Beneath lies a small oilskin packet sealed with the serpent crest. She hands it to Slack. He unwraps it carefully. Inside, a roll of banknotes, thick as a hymn book, and a single photograph. Clarissa, young, radiant arm linked with a man, not Henry. On the back, ink faded. Midnight Greenhouse, 1921. Slack whistles. Old flame? Miss Marple studies the face. Quentin, 20 years younger. Same eyes, same smile. The past roots deep. They carry the packet to the morning room. Evelyn brews fresh tea, hands shaking. Miss Marple thanks her. The girl lingers. That photo was in the attic trunk. Lady Clarissa burned letters last week. Said spring cleaning. Miss Marple nods. Some fires, warm old lies. Slack spreads the notes. £5,000. Enough to silence a ghost. He flips the photo. A date scratched beneath the ink. 14 June. Quentin's birthday. Miss Marple traces the crack in her mind. The fountain holds more than water. She returns alone. The conservatory hums with heat. She kneels at the fountain again. The crack widens under gentle pressure. The slab lifts like a trapdoor. Below, a shallow cavity, brick lined. Inside, a second packet, smaller. She opens it. A locket, gold heart shaped. Inside, a curl of dark hair and a pressed violet. On the back, engraved C&Q forever footsteps. Clarissa enters alone, wrists bruised from cuffs, but eyes clear. She sees the locket. Her hand flies to her throat. Where? Miss Marple closes the heart. Fountain. With the money. Clarissa sinks to the bench. He kept it. After all these years, Miss Marple sits beside her. You met in 1921. Greenhouse tryst. Clarissa nods slow. Father sent him away. Threatened to ruin him. I married Henry for the estate. Quentin vanished. Until yesterday. She touches the locket. He wanted the money to buy silence again. Or to buy me. Slack appears in the doorway. Cells are full, but the crack keeps giving. He eyes Clarissa. You hid this? She shakes her head. He did. After I refused him last night. Said if I would not leave Henry, he would drown the past in the fountain. Miss Marple lifts the slab back. Water seeps into the cavity, slow and black. Clarissa stands. I pushed him. Not for the hoard. For the locket. He wore it under his shirt. Laughed when I begged for it back. The wire caught his foot. He fell, reaching for me. She demonstrates arms wide. Glass rained. I ran. Slack steps forward. So Elaine poisoned. Lloyd doctored the cocoa. Henry set the wire. You pushed. Clarissa nods. A perfect storm. Miss Marple closes the locket. Love turns lethal when it meets money. She slips it into her pocket. Evidence now. Outside, the garden steams. Roses droop heavy with heat. Miss Marple walks the path to the shed. The hammer still hangs on its nail. She lifts it. On the handle, a faint smear violet matching the pressed flower. She bags it. Clarissa carried it down after the push, to break the pain from below. Distraction complete. Back in the house, Slack gathers the final statements. Elaine signs hers, tears blotting the ink. Lloyd stares at the wall. Henry paces his cell. Clarissa sits straight. I will hang alone if it spares the rest. Slack shakes his head. All four danced. All four fall. Evening cools the glass. Miss Marple returns to the fountain. The crack is sealed now with fresh cement. The orchid pot sits on the rim bud tight. She waters it sparingly. Some roots survive even murder. She locks the cage. The key whole again hangs on a new ribbon plain white. In the morning room, tea cools untouched. Slack packs his case. Case closed. 4 motives, 1 death. Miss Marple sips. The fountain remembers. The orchid blooms tonight. She stands at the window. Moonrise paints the glass silver. The bud stirs. Petals part slow, revealing a heart pure and poison-free. She smiles small. Not every flower carries death. Some carry absolution. She leaves the key on the sill. The cage will stay locked until the trial. Truth needs no tending now. Chapter 7. The White Ribbon. Moonlight floods the conservatory and turns the lone orchid into a lantern. Miss Marple stands outside the cage, the white ribbon looped once around her fingers. The bud has opened fully, petals wide throat glowing. She breathes the scent, clean sweet, no trace of almond. She ties the ribbon to the padlock, a bow neat and final. Inside the house, the clocks strike 1. Silence answers. The constables have gone. Cells wait in much Benham. Miss Marple walks the gravel path between empty benches. Her shoes make no sound. She stops at the fountain. The new cement gleams wet. She kneels, presses one palm to it. Still warm. The house settles around her like a held breath. A door opens soft behind the ferns. Evelyn steps through, apron gone, eyes red. She carries a small bundle wrapped in brown paper. Miss Marple rises. Couldn't sleep, child. Evelyn shakes her head. For Elaine. She holds out the bundle. Her mother's prayer book. Miss Marple takes it. I will see it reaches her. Evelyn lingers. The fountain, she whispers. It sang tonight. Water over stone. Miss Marple listens. Only the trickle answers. She pats the girl's hand. Grief makes music where none plays. Go to bed. Dawn comes soon. Evelyn slips away, the door closing without a click. Miss Marple returns to the cage. The orchid shivers in a draught she cannot feel. She unlocks the padlock, lifts the clay pot. Beneath it, the marble is clean. She sets the pot on the bench, unwraps the prayer book. Inside the flyleaf, a photograph slips free. Quentin Young in flannel's arm around a girl with blonde braids. Elaine at 16. On the back, pencil faint. First summer. She tucks the picture back. Footsteps again heavier. Slack appears, coat over arm. Thought I'd find you here. He eyes the open cage. Taking souvenirs? Miss Marple smiles, returning them. She locks the cage again, ribbon fluttering. Some stories end where they begin. Slack yawns. Vans leave at 6, all 4 aboard. He hesitates. The girl asked for you. Elaine says there's one more thing. Miss Marple nods. Lead on. The servants' stairs creak under their weight. At the bottom, a door stands open to the old laundry. Elaine sits on a stool, wrists cuffed, ankles free. A single bulb swings overhead. She looks up, eyes swollen. The ribbon, she says, voice hoarse, white. I tied it to his wrist the night he promised. He cut it off, laughed. Said promises wilt. Miss Marple kneels. You kept the prayer book. Elaine nods. Mother gave it the day he left. Said pray for thieves and liars. I prayed for murder instead. She laughs, once broken. The orchid was for him. The push for me. I wanted him to fall forever. Slack shifts. Enough for the jury. Elaine looks at Miss Marple. Tell the flower I watered it with tears. It bloomed anyway. Miss Marple touches the girl's cheek. Some tears nourish. She stands. Time. Upstairs, the house is dark. Miss Marple pauses in the hall. A light burns under the study door. She enters. Sir Henry sits at the desk, a glass half empty. He does not look up. The estate is entailed. Clarissa gets nothing. The hoard seized. He lifts the glass. to empty glass houses. Miss Marple pours herself water from the carafe. You set the wire. Clarissa pushed. Lloyd poisoned. Elaine waited with flowers. 4 hearts, 1 fall. Henry drains the glass. I built the trap for debt. She sprang it for love. He sets the glass down precise. Hang me first. The order matters little. She leaves him with the dark. In the conservatory, the orchid glows alone. She locks the outer door key on the white ribbon now tied to the handle. Dawn edges the horizon pale gold. Birds begin. She walks the gravel once more, counting steps from fountain to cage. 32. The length of a short life. At the gate, Constable Pork waits bicycle propped. All quiet, miss. She nods. The garden sleeps. He pedals away, bell tinkling. Miss Marple returns to the morning room. The prayer book lies on the table, photograph face up. She slips it inside, closes the cover. Elaine will have it at the trial. Sun strikes the conservatory full. The orchid catches firelight blazing through every vein. Miss Marple stands at the glass. The ribbon flutters like a small flag. She speaks to the bloom, though no one hears. You outlived them all. Keep the secret. She turns away. The path to the village waits dew fresh. Behind her, the cage locks hold, the padlock gleams, the ribbon dances. The conservatory stands empty, clean, ready for new earth, new seeds. Some deaths close a gate. Some open a door. She walks on sensible shoes, crunching soft. St. Mary Mead wakes beyond the hedge, another ordinary day. Chapter 8. The empty benched Mary Mead church bell tolls 9 slow notes. Miss Marple walks the lane, homeward, prayer book tucked beneath her arm. The conservatory shrinks behind hedges, glass glinting like a blind eye. Villagers nod good morning, unaware that murder has already packed its bags and left on the early van. At the gate of her cottage, she pauses. A single white ribbon flutters from the latch tied in a bow identical to the one on the cage. She unties it, smooths the satin. No note, only the bow. She slips it into her pocket beside the brass key, now whole again. Inside, the kettle sings. She brews tea, strong Ceylon, sets 1 cup. The prayer book rests on the table. She opens it. The photograph of young Elaine has vanished. Only a pressed violet remains between the pages. She closes the book. Someone entered in the night. A knock. Mrs. Bantry bursts in, hat askew, cheeks pink. Jane, the news is all over the village. 4 arrests, 1 house. She sinks into the chair, fanning herself. Clarissa pushed him. After 20 years. Miss Marple pours tea. Love calcifies Dolly, then shatters. Mrs. Bantry sips. The orchid still blooms, they say, locked in its cage like a prisoner. Miss Marple nods. Some prisoners choose their bars. She lifts the white ribbon. This was on my gate. Mrs. Bantry gasps. A message? Miss Marple folds it small. Or a thank you. Postman cycles up. A letter slides through the slot, heavy cream envelope, serpent seal intact. Miss Marple opens it with the bread knife. Inside, 1 line. The past is pruned. Q, no more. She burns the paper in the sink, watches ash curl. Quentin wrote before the fall. The postmark yesterday. She walks to the vicarage. The Reverend Mr. Dane greets her in the study. Elaine wishes baptism before trial. Says the water must be clean. Miss Marple hands him the prayer book. Give her this. Tell her the orchid drank the fountain dry. He nods, eyes kind. Grace finds strange soil. Afternoon sun bakes the high street. Miss Marple visits the police station. Slack meets her in the yard cells, quiet behind iron. Elaine asked for the white ribbon, he says. Said it was hers from childhood. Miss Marple gives him the one from her gate. Tell her the bow holds. Evening settles soft. Miss Marple returns to the manor by the back path. The conservatory door stands open. Inside the cage is empty clay pot, gone, ribbon vanished. Only a circle of clean soil marks the bench. She kneels. In the earth, a single seed, small white. She pockets it. The fountain runs clear, pump silent. On the marble rim, a new crack splits the cement hairline fresh. She presses. Nothing moves. The house is stripped for auction, curtains gone, silver sold. She walks the gravel once more. 32 steps. The benches wait for new plants, new hands. Outside the gate, a boy waits on a bicycle. Telegram for Miss Marple. She tips him 6pence. The message brief. Orchid replanted London. Blooms tonight. E. She smiles. Elaine waters from afar. Night folds the village. Miss Marple sits in her parlour fire low. She plants the white seed in a plain pot, fresh compost, no poison. She ties the last white ribbon round the rim. Some stories travel in silence. She sets the pot on the sill. Moonlight spills across it, silver and full. The church bell strikes 10. Somewhere in Much Benham 4 hearts beat behind bars. Somewhere in London, one white orchid opens for a girl who will never see it. Miss Marple knits by the glow. The needles click steady. Every garden ends. Every seed begins. She hums soft. The tune has no name, only the sound of water over clean stone. Chapter 9. The seed on the sill. Moonlight fades to pearl. Miss Marple wakes before the birds, her bedroom window open to cool air. The plain pot on the sill holds the white seed buried shallow. A single green thread has pierced the compost straight and brave. She waters it with an eggshell of rainwater. 1 drop. No more. Downstairs the postman taps again. A small parcel, brown paper tied with garden twine. Inside a folded note in Elaine's round hand. Plant it where the sun forgets. Thank you for the ribbon. Beneath the note, a second seed, smaller, darker. She tucks both into separate envelopes labelled in pencil. One for the vicarage, one for the manor auction. She walks to the high street. The butcher sweeps his step. The baker pulls shutters. News of the manor murder has settled into village bone. Mrs. Price at the wool shop calls out. Heard the conservatory goes to a London gentleman. Wants to fill it with pineapples. Miss Marple smiles. Fruit forgets faster than flowers. At the police station, Slack drinks tea from a cracked mug. Elaine refuses counsel, he says. Pleads guilty to the poison. Clarissa to the push. Henry to the wire. Lloyd to the digitalis. Judge wants them separate. Trials in spring. Miss Marple hands him the darker seed. From the fountain crack. Might grow something honest. He pockets it without question. Midday heat ripples the lane. Miss Marple takes the footpath to the empty manor. The auction flag already flies red against blue sky. Inside the conservatory smells of sawdust and absence. The fountain is capped pipes sold for scrap. The cage stands dismantled bars stacked like kindling. She kneels where the orchid lived. The soil circle is gone, swept clean. She presses the lighter seed into the bare patch, covers it with a pinch of dust from her pocket. A shadow falls. The London gentleman stands in the doorway, straw hat tilted. You the gardener? He asks, voice clipped. Miss Marple rises, brushing her hands. Only a visitor. He nods. Pineapples need heat. Glass stays. Good bones. She smiles. Bones, remember. Evening brings cloud. Miss Marple returns home. The first shoot has doubled in height, 2 pale leaves unfurling. She ties a fresh white ribbon round the pot loose so it can breathe. The telephone rings shrill. Mrs. Bantry breathless. Jane the orchid bloomed in the prison van. Elaine saw it through the window, white as forgiveness. Miss Marple listens to the silence after the click. Some miracles travel on wheels. Night settles thick. She sits in the dark parlour, needles still. The shoot glows faintly on the sill. Moonlight caught in new green. Somewhere trials wait. Somewhere pineapples will steam the glass. Somewhere 4 hearts learn the length of bars. Here, 1 seed drinks quiet water and grows toward ordinary morning. She closes the curtains. The cottage sleeps. Outside, the church bell strikes 12 slow notes. The ribbon flutters once in a draught that smells of rain. Miss Marple whispers to the dark. Every end is a gate. She leaves the window open. The shoot leans toward the night, brave and wordless. Chapter 10. The orchid that never was. Dawn breaks pale and ordinary over St. Mary Mead. Miss Marple stands at her kitchen sink, rinsing the teapot, the white ribboned pot on the sill, now holding a sturdy shoot 3 leaves high. She lifts it, turns it, studies the stem. No orchid, a common moonflower. She smiles, sets it down, waters it once. The seed from the conservatory lied in the kindest way. The doorbell chimes. Inspector Slack fills the frame hat in hand. Eyes tired but clear. Coffee, she asks. He nods, steps inside. They sit at the table, sunlight striping the cloth. He opens his notebook, last page. Thought you would want the ending tidy. He begins with the trials. Elaine drew 3 years for attempted poisoning. Clarissa 5 for manslaughter. Henry 7 for conspiracy. Lloyd 10 for murder by digitalis. All separate prisons. All silent now. The hoard funded the crown. The manor sold to the pineapple man. The conservatory steams with green fruit. Miss Marple pours coffee. And the orchid? Slack flips a photograph across the table. The bloom that travelled in the prison van. He taps it. Paper. Elaine folded it from a prison napkin, painted it with toothpaste and ink. She pressed it to the window so Clarissa would see white forgiveness on wheels. The guards never noticed. He leans back. The fountain packets. The money was Clarissa's dowry returned by Quentin years ago. He kept the locket because she begged him to. The photograph in the prayer book was Elaine at 16, taken the summer Quentin taught her Latin names for weeds. She kept it hidden. The darker seed from the crack was plain cress. Grew in the station yard. Weeds always win. Miss Marple lifts the moonflower pot. This was the white seed from the circle where the orchid stood. Common night bloomer. Opens at dusk, closes at dawn. No poison, no rarity. Only hope wearing fancy clothes. Slack chuckles. Fits the village. Nothing here is ever what it seems. He closes the notebook. One last thing. The white ribbons. Evelyn cut them from her confirmation dress. Gave one to Elaine in laundry. One to the cage. One to your gate. Said bows hold better than words. Miss Marple touches the ribbon on the pot. Children understand endings. Slack stands. Case closed. Orchard of pineapples now. No glass left for ghosts. He tips his hat, leaves the scent of train smoke and strong coffee. The door shuts soft. Miss Marple carries the moonflower to the front step. Moonlight will find it there. She unties the ribbon, lets it fall into the petals. Inside the cottage, the prayer book lies open, violet-pressed flat photograph gone. She closes it, sets it on the shelf between Dickens and the railway guide. Evening deepens. The chute on the step opens, slow petals, wide, plain white. No serpent crest, no cyanide, only night scent and the hum of ordinary moths. Miss Marple watches from the window. 4 lives pruned, 1 weed flowering. The conservatory miles away steams with fruit that will never know murder. She turns off the lamp. The cottage settles. Outside, the moonflower glows against the dark, a small, honest moon. She speaks to the quiet. Every death is a seed, every seed a small lie we tell the light. The flower trembles once in agreement, then holds still. St. Mary Mead sleeps. The church bell strikes 10. Somewhere pineapples ripen under glass. Somewhere 4 hearts count days. Here, 1 moonflower drinks the night and gives nothing back but fragrance. Miss Marple closes the curtains. The story ends where it began, in a cottage garden with a woman who understands that some truths grow best in common soil. If the tale gave you a single shiver or smile, like this video, subscribe and ring the bell. Your support keeps the garden growing. Good night.